Speaker Ryan, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thanks for having me.
Interesting phenomenon that took place with this big spending bill. It didn't have the following items. Didn't have a defunding of Planned Parenthood, sanctuary cities, no punishment there on funding, no security assurances for when it comes to extra security for Syrian refugees, no defunding of the president's immigration programs, no measures to block the president's climate agenda. If a Speaker Boehner presented a spending bill like this, he wouldn't have gotten 150 votes. Why do you think you got 150 Republican votes when you didn't do some things that the conservative base wanted?
Well, actually, we have advanced those priorities in other areas. For instance, our defunding of Planned Parenthood, we knew that that was going to be filibustered and therefore go nowhere in the Senate, so we put it in what we call a reconciliation bill, got that through the Senate, that's coming back in the House, and we're going to have that Planned Parenthood and Obamacare vote first week we come back in January. We'll be able to get that on the president's desk because we found a way to get around the filibuster in the Senate, so we were more effective in our Obamacare and Planned Parenthood policy to zero those out, and that's going to the president's desk. With respect to refugees, the Senate Majority Leader is going to bring up the bill, the legislation, putting a pause in the Syrian refugee program after the first of the year, just like we did in the House. So that's advancing to the Senate as well.
But this is something that you would have had a better shot getting, forcing the president to have to
well,
sign it.
We
if it's
actually
in a
zeroed
bill.
out the Green Climate Fund in this bill. We opened up and lifted permanently the 40-year ban on crude oil exports. That's an enormous win for Americans, for jobs, for the economy, something conservatives and Republicans have been trying to do for so long. We brought the funding of the EPA level down to 2008 pre-Obamacare levels. We brought the personnel, and these are regulators that are doing damage to the economy in my judgment. We brought the personnel levels down to 1989 levels in this spending bill. So this spending bill, we think we got some very good victories. But let me first say, this is divided government. And in divided government, you don't get everything you want. So we fought for as much as we could get. We advanced our priorities and principles, not every single one of them, but many of them. And then we're going to pick up next year and pick up where we left off and keep going for more.
You know, it's interesting, you used a word that we hadn't had a speaker use in a while. You used the word compromise on earlier this week. You said this is a bipartisan compromise. It's a bicameral compromise. In his first interview as Speaker, John Boehner refused to ever use, he said, no, it's not compromise, it's common ground. Because some conservatives argue when you compromise, you're splitting the difference and the movement loses. If it's common ground, you stick to a conservative principle. Do you think there's a difference between the words?
What matters, in my opinion, is don't give up your principles, fight for your principles. And the question in all of these kinds of negotiations, and I've done a number of these, is can you find common ground to reach a compromise without compromising your principles? And the answer is clearly yes. And so that is what this reflects. We did not get everything we wanted, neither did the Democrats. They got some of their priorities, we got many of our priorities. The point is, we had to make government work. And I gotta tell you, Chuck, I'm really excited with the progress that we've made over the last 7 weeks. Breaking gridlock, getting things done, advancing our principles and ideas. Biggest education reform in 25 years. The biggest devolution of power back to the states and localities for education in 25 years. We got a long-term highway bill, first time in a decade. We rewrote our customs laws, which needed to be rewritten since the 20th century. We just passed tax certainty, enormous tax policy certainty for businesses and families that will help grow the economy. That's something we've been trying to do for 15 years around here, and we did it. So I'm very excited with the progress, and we did it through regular order as well.
And I want to try to get through this interview without using the word omnibus. However, you one time...
You just said it.
I know, because you one time said omnibus equals a crap sandwich when you were a member, not Speaker. Now that you're Speaker, do you think member Paul Ryan was a little naive in calling it that?
I don't think it that way. I don't like this process. I've been really clear to our members and to the media.
You don't like the process, so why'd you participate in it?
I don't like the process. This is the process I inherited. Everybody knows that I walked into this speakership 7 weeks ago with this process already in place, with this cake already baked. And so what I did is I went to work to make the best of this process, to get some good wins for conservatives, like lifting the oil export ban for the first time in 40 years, getting permanency on tax policy, getting some good riders, limiting the IRS so that the IRS can't meddle in politics, making sure that we get more pro-life riders. So those are some wins we did get. But the point I would say is, this is a process I inherited. I fully own that. But it's also a process that will help us get to what we call regular order next year, where we don't wind up with the same kind of situation next year. That is my hope and that is my goal. I've been working with Senator McConnell and Senator Reid to make sure that we have a more orderly appropriations process next year so that we have more honest government, more accountable government, more transparent government.
What does it say, though? So Mark Levin says they betrayed you, referring to you. They betrayed your children and grandchildren. Laura Ingraham, omnibus. Marco Rubio's to Jeb Bush as Paul Ryan is to John Boehner. That is not meant as a compliment, as you might know. Damn rhinos stampeding. More Mark Levin. And I think Rush Limbaugh said, why disband the Republican Party over this? But Harry Reid said this: it's a good product for the American people. So here you have Harry Reid praising you, and all these conservative opinion leaders calling it betrayal, really personal stuff. What did they get wrong? What is Harry Reid right? Who's right there?
Look, none of this stuff gets to me. Look, I think the results are what matters. We made good on our promises. We advanced good legislation. And more importantly,
You think this rhetoric's inappropriate?
I don't
Out
really,
of line?
I don't really pay attention to it. Look, people know
Some
who
of your
I am.
members do.
The members know that I am a movement conservative. They know that I am a doer and not a beer. Look, the members that asked me to become speaker, that elected me the speaker, know that I come from the conservative movement and that I'm a movement conservative with an eye on the prize, which is actually achieving success. I want to make sure that we have an agenda that we take to the American people that is rooted in our founding principles. This is what conservatives believe, to give the country a very clear choice. And that's what we're excited and looking forward to in 2016. And so I really don't pay attention to various criticisms that you're going to have. No matter what you do in this job, you're going to get criticized. The question is, are you focusing on your goals? Are you keeping your principles intact? Are you advancing ideas that make a difference in people's lives? And are, in 2016, you going to be giving Americans a choice so that the people of this country get to decide what kind of country we're going to have? If we just do nothing, if we just become an opposition party only, then we will not give the people of this country the choice they deserve. And that's why I think that's why I know we're going to go on offense in 2016, and I'm looking forward to doing that.
You were pretty aggressive when it comes to pushing. You were talking about your tax. You were pretty happy about this in the tax. But one of the criticisms from deficit hawks is, guess what? $700 billion in permanent tax cuts. What you've done with Obamacare, it's probably going to be these yearly extenders, which, if it becomes permanent, it's another $250 billion. They're not paid for. That's $1 trillion in tax cuts not
I
paid for.
completely reject the premise of your point in question, which is...
You don't think tax cuts should be paid for?
That's not what this is. So let's look at this situation. I'll try and be as quick as I can. These tax provisions have been in law for many, many years. Say Section 179, letting small businesses write off purchases of plant and equipment, which actually hires people. We extend it 1 year at a time. What that does is it makes that small businessman or woman uncertain as to whether or not this benefit's going to be there for them, so they can't plan their business. So we extend it 1 year at a time. We're saying, let's just make this permanent so we can give people and families the certainty they need. We always know we're going to extend it. We don't, quote unquote, pay for it. And by the way, paying for it, what that means is we will raise taxes on other hardworking taxpayers just so we can keep them the same.
Nobody said
for everybody
it
else.
doesn't always have to be paid for. You could find something to cut.
So the point, your question is...
But you could find something to cut to pay for it.
That's not
pay as you go.
No, this isn't pay as you go.
Why shouldn't it be?
These tax policies are in law. We want to keep them in law. And by keeping taxes where they are, that means we're keeping them where they are. That doesn't mean we're cutting taxes. We're keeping taxes where they are. Because there's an artificial problem in the law that says these taxes will raise, not raising taxes is not cutting taxes. It's not raising taxes. So the point I'd make is this really isn't a tax cut as much as it's tax certainty. Keeping taxes where they are so families and businesses can plan and grow the economy and create jobs. That's what we're doing. That's what we have achieved. It's really the left. It's the left that wants us to continually ratcheting up taxes on hardworking taxpayers and using this premise, this argument, this rhetoric that all of a sudden we need to be raising taxes on other hardworking taxpayers just to keep them where they are for hardworking taxpayers is just something I don't agree with.
Let me move to your relationship with President Obama. You've been in 7 weeks. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think you've had a face-to-face meeting. How is it the Speaker of the House and President of the United States?
I saw him at the Christmas party.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw him at the
But
White
has
House
there been a
Christmas party.
one-on-one, two guys leading the country?
No, but we've talked on the phone a couple of times. He did today invite me over to have a meal with him after the first of the year.
Okay. What do you hope to accomplish with him in a one-on-one meeting?
We don't agree on much. We see things very differently. I think what we will probably try to do is where we can get things done, where we can find common ground without compromising principles, get those things done. make sure that government works. But we're going to have one heck of a contrast in 2016. And you know what?
What is something you think guys can get done?
I think criminal justice reform is one of those areas that we've talked about getting things done, getting this appropriations process back on track.
I assume trade?
We'll see when we can get that done, but that's one thing. We're still looking at that trade agreement.
But that's something you probably will work with the White House on, not
Yeah, I
necessarily against
haven't
them.
made my mind up. I haven't read the entirety of the agreement yet, but that's something conceivably that could be done. But let me just say this. First of all, he's not on the ballot again. There'll be other people on the ballot again. But I believe the president has succeeded in transforming this country in a direction that it was never supposed to go in the first place.
You think he's had a good year, by the way? He got a lot of his agenda. You could argue by going around you guys. He got a lot of his agenda done, which is why the right is so mad at you and others.
Yeah.
That he succeeded, even though you guys wiped out his party in 2014.
So we blocked bad legislation from passing, and the president tried to go it his alone with his phone and his pen, circumventing the Constitution. We've had some successes in court. We've had some successes in Congress. But the real success is going to have to be 2016 in the ballot box, where we replace this president with one who actually respects the Constitution, who wants to relimit government, reignite free enterprise,
But as far as
grow the
his
economy,
agenda, is concerned, getting an Iran deal, climate change agreement, defending the health care law, keeping the government open, I mean, maybe it's, he could say he's had a good year. I think he's probably going to say
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I think he's a liberal progressive who believes he should go around the Constitution, and he's been succeeding in some ways of doing that. I think in Obamacare, we have a court challenge that's still pending that may be successful on conscience. One of the things that bothered me the most about Obamacare is that it violates the religious freedom and conscience of Americans. We have a court ruling coming up in the spring. So whether it's the court challenges that we're advancing or other people are advancing, whether it's the oversight we're doing in Congress, whether it's holding the IRS accountable like we did with our riders and the appropriation bills, or more importantly, offering an alternative. Look, let me just say this. The country's on the wrong track. Most Americans believe the country's on the wrong path. We think the president has led us in the wrong direction. The economy is flat. Wages are stagnant. Hardworking families are working harder and harder.
You don't believe the economy's getting better?
Farther ahead. No, I don't.
The Fed thinks so.
Look at poverty rates. 45 million people living in poverty, stuck in poverty. Look at our foreign policy. It's a disaster. Look at our military. It needs to be rebuilt. So on all of these issues, whether it's the micromanagement of our economy through regulations, whether it's the slow-growing economy, flat wages, deep poverty, bad foreign policy, weakening military, we, Republicans, conservatives, will be offering this country a better way forward in 2016 so that the men and women of this country get to have a choice of what they want America to look like in 2016. That is our duty and our obligation from being an opposition party to a proposition party, and that's why our members here are very excited about turning the page on 2015 and getting on with 2016.
You know, it's interesting. You guys put out a video, sort of marking the end of this calendar year. It was what you just proposed. You have an optimistic tone about what you want to do. It's not a negative tone. The video is pretty optimistic. It's more optimistic than anything I'm hearing on the presidential campaign trail. Why is that?
I think it's because we're in the primary. Look, I come from the Happy Warrior school of the conservative movement. My mentors were Jack Kemp, who I worked for, Ronald Reagan. So that's just the personal view. I take a look at things.
Do you wish the campaign were a little more optimistic?
Well, I think that does happen after the primary. I think these people are trying to distinguish themselves in a Republican primary. I think that happens. I remember the Obama-Clinton primary? That was pretty rough. So I think that we're in this phase of the presidential campaign. You're a student of this. I think that phase will change in the general election. But in the meantime, those of us who are here in Congress, those of us who are deeply worried about the direction of our country, but who are excited about our ideas, who are excited about the potential we have for our country, are happy about moving on with the kind of conversation we need to have with our fellow citizens about how to fix problems, real solutions. And that's what I'm looking forward to, and that's why we're happy and optimistic.
You came down hard on Donald Trump on his proposal on Muslim aid. You said this is not conservatism. What was proposed is not what this party stands for, and more importantly, it's not what this country stands for. Very hard. In many ways, you gave cover from other Republicans to also criticize him. Here we are, 2 weeks later, about 10 days after he's done it. His numbers have gone up. It didn't sway many Republicans, sort of rank and file Republicans. Are you out of step with your party? Is Donald Trump more in step with the party right now than you are?
I think it's a big tent Republican Party. I don't think I'm out of step because I'm a known conservative. Look, people know me as a very conservative person who's been advancing ideas like balancing budget, reforming welfare, entitlements, tax reform, all of the rest. There is room in this tent for a lot of people. It is a majority party. We have some of the best majorities, the biggest majorities throughout state legislatures, governorships, and here in Congress. So we are a majority party that's a big tent party. I believe that this nomination process is going to be healthy. I trust the Republican primary voter to pick a nominee that can take us all the way to win the White House so we can fix this country.
Are you concerned, though, about Donald Trump's rhetoric? Obviously, you
Look,
were with that
obviously,
one.
I don't agree with what he said with respect to a religious test. I was speaking out for the First Amendment. Religious freedom, right of conscience, that is a fundamental right. It's a natural right, and it's a constitutional right. And it's something that we as conservatives should always forcefully defend. But look, I'm not worried about this nominating process. I trust the Republican primary voter.
You're going to have a poverty summit at the first of the year. Two candidates that have yet to RSVP are Ted Cruz and Donald Trump. What do you say to them to convince them to come to this?
We invited all the candidates. Right. These people are busy with schedules. I don't know what their reasons are for not coming. I did speak with Ted. I think he was going to try and make it. I just don't know if he's making it or not.
And what about Mr. Trump?
We've invited him. I haven't had a chance to speak with him yet.
Have you ever spoken with him?
Yeah, I met him in 2012.
Yeah? What was your interaction like?
It was nice, very cordial.
And let me ask you about the idea of you being speaker a year from now. What is the process you're going to go through to make that decision if you want to be speaker going into 2017?
I haven't even thought of that. I don't know. I'm
Is
focused
it family?
on the here and now.
Is it whether a Democrat wins the White House or a Republican wins the White House? Or are you enjoying this job more than you thought?
I actually am enjoying it more than I thought I would. I really haven't given it that kind of thought. I'm so focused on the here and the now. What I wanted to do is get Congress working again. Open up the process. Get us back to running Congress the way the founders intended it. We've done that. We've got more work to do on that. And in 2016, I'm excited about going on offense on ideas and offering people a better way forward, a real proposal for how to get this country back on track. That's solely my focus. And to be honest, I haven't thought about what happens after all of that.
Is there so there's no guarantee that you would want to keep doing this in 2017 if Republicans keep their majority?
I just haven't been thinking about it. I stepped into the breach, stepped up when I had a duty and an obligation to do so. I'm excited about the potential. I'm excited about the opportunity. I feel blessed and honored to have this position. And what I want to do is make the best of it, which is to get Congress working, to get this place functioning, and to get our party in the mode of being not just a good opposition party, but being a very good proposition party.
All right, final question is this. There's most likely whoever's elected president is going to become immediately polarizing. We are living in times where it feels that this is there anything you and President Obama can do together that could lay the groundwork to just lessen it a little bit? Have you guys thought about that? Have you thought about this?
I haven't discussed that with him. I think he's one of the most polarizing presidents we've ever had.
But
I think,
isn't it going to be anybody at this point? Isn't part of this environment?
I think leadership matters, and I think the president has, through various tactics, identity politics, and the rest, has created very divisive politics.
You don't think Mitt Romney, President Mitt Romney, would be polarizing right now? Just in the nature
I know
of times?
Mitt very well. I think he would have done everything he could. I think he would have labored to not polarize, to try and unify. Leaders can unify and leaders can polarize. This president decided to polarize.
But you guys are going to try to defund his signature health care law. For many progressives, that's a polarizing move.
It's a law that is not working. It's a law that's depriving people's choices. It's a law that's making families pay double-digit premium increases. It's a law that's leading Medicare into a rationing scheme that's not going to work for seniors.
I understand that argument, but do you understand that that is, to some, just as polarizing as what you're saying President Obama is doing? My point is, how do we get out of this cycle?
That's a good question. I think we get out of this cycle by being positive, by offering a vision, by offering solutions, and focusing on what they do to make people's lives better, and to appeal to what unifies us as a country, as a people. We should not play identity politics as conservatives or as liberals, which is a political tactic that aims at speaking to people in ways that divide them from one another. That is wrong in my opinion.
And I take it that's why you spoke out against
both sides
Trump
do it.
so
Yeah,
quickly.
both sides do it, and I think it's wrong because all it will do is polarize us even further, and we cannot have a unified country if we keep doing that. So this is why I think leaders should lead to unify. This is why I'm a Jack Kemp, Ronald Reagan, happy warrior conservative.
Speaker Ryan, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thanks, Chuck.
Nice, yeah. Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and then click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.